Hello everyone, welcome to all for lecture series of Naval Architecture for MEO examination. In this lecture series, we are going to cover syllabus of class 1, class 2 and class 4 examination. If you are visiting our YouTube channel first time, please like, share and subscribe. Our YouTube channel is MEO exam Naval Architecture. Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to start discussing about the shear force and bending moment on the bulkhead stiffeners. So how the shear force and bending moment is coming because of the presence of the liquid inside the cargo hold. So it is a continuation topic of the things which we have discussed in the lecture number 6. So this is the lecture number 7 of the series of Naval Architecture, which is made for the MEO examination. So you can see on the screen I have shown one picture. You will come to know that what I have shown. So you have a bulkhead here. So this is the gray color you can see, that is the transverse bulkhead is there, and these green colors, that all are stiffeners. So you have a bulkhead plating that is in the gray color from the bottom to the top of the bulkhead, and then we'll have to increase the strength of the bulkhead, we are using a stiffeners that is arranged in the vertical direction. So in this case, the green colors are the stiffeners that is arranged in the vertical direction. Now what we are going to do now here, in this picture it is shown as the main deck is having some camber, and at the same time you have some bilge strap over here, but we are not going to solve that complicated numerical at this moment. We will consider only a rectangular bulkhead is there, and there will be a stiffeners which are arranged in the vertical direction. I will show that stiffeners in a single lines. So the stiffeners will be like this. You have stiffeners in the vertical directions. So the green color stiffeners which you can see here, that I have shown in the black color in the schematic diagram. Now the spacing, the length or the depth of the bulkhead we are taking is L. The depth of the bulkhead is L, and the spacing between the two consecutive stiffeners, that I am calling as a S. So each stiffeners, the spacing between all the stiffeners or the consecutive stiffeners, that is denoted by a S. So what we are doing in this lecture, because of the presence of a liquid on one side of a bulkhead, how much amount of the load is coming on the bulkhead, that we have already found, and because of the presence of the liquid, whatever the load is transferring on the bulkhead, that all the load is taken care by the bulkhead plating, and to support the bulkhead plating we are using some stiffeners. So we can say that whatever the load is coming because of the presence of the liquid, that all the load is transferring on the stiffeners directly. So now what we are going to do for the calculation, we are not going to considering all the stiffeners. What we will do now, we will consider only this part, means any two consecutive stiffeners will be there. The frame spacing is S, and the length of the bulkhead or the depth of the bulkhead, that we will call as L. So that you can draw here. So there will be a two stiffeners I have shown in the black color, and the frame spacing between these two stiffeners, that will be S, and the length is L. So we will do the analysis only for this rectangular plate. So whatever the analysis we are doing for this only small rectangular plate, it will be applicable for the whole bulkhead. I hope this is clear what we are going to do in this class. I am repeating once again, we have a bulkhead. To increase the strength of the bulkhead, we are using the stiffeners, and that is arranged in the vertical direction. The spacing between the consecutive stiffeners is S. The depth of the bulkhead is L. It means that the length of the stiffeners also L. For the analysis purpose, what we are doing, for the calculation purpose, what we are doing, we are taking the two stiffeners and the consecutive stiffeners, and the gap between these stiffeners will be S, and that stiffeners will be supported by a rectangular plate. Okay, so like this we are doing the calculations. Now what we are going to do, so whatever the load is coming on the bulkhead, the same pressure, we know that because of the presence of the liquid inside the tank, at the top of the bulkhead the pressure will be 0. As you go down, pressure is going to increase linearly. Same thing we have done in case of a load diagram. If you find the load diagram, it will be similar to the pressure diagram. At the top of the bulkhead, the load will be 0. As you go down, load is going to increase. And at the bottom, we have a maximum load. So that all the things, whatever the things we have studied in an earlier class, that you have to recall here to understand this concept. Now we will move for the description. So whatever the things I have discussed, it is written over here also. A bulkhead, a stiffener supports a rectangle of the plating equal to the length of the stiffeners times the spacing of the stiffeners. Yes, he is talking about this. This is the part only we are going to consider. So this is the part of the one of the bulkhead. So this is the one of the stiffener. This is the second stiffener, and the spacing between the two stiffeners is S. So we are considering that if the bulkhead has a liquid on one side to the top edge, the stiffener supports a load which is increased uniformly from 0 at the top and maximum at the bottom. Let L is the length of the stiffeners in a meter. S is the spacing of the stiffeners in a meter. Rho is the density of the liquid in kg per meter cube. P, capital P here, capital P is the load on the stiffeners. If you remember how to calculate the load on the bulkhead, the formula was rho g a h. So whatever the load was coming on the bulkhead, that all the load is transferring to the stiffeners. Okay, the same load is transferring, so we can use the same formula here, rho g a h. So rho is the density, g a. Now which area you have to take? This one which I have taken in the area will be this will be the area. Means two consecutive stiffeners. The width will be, it's like a rectangle only. The width will be S. Width will be S, and the depth is L. So area you have to take L into S. And what is the H? H is the distance of the centroid of this the plane which we are considering from the free surface. So it is discussed that the free surface is at the top of the bulkhead. So, and this plane is like a rectangle only. So H will be the half of the depth of the plane. So depth of the plane, here we have taken a small l. So that will be L by 2. That only is written here. The load acting on the stiffeners will be rho g ls into L by 2. Same thing we have done calculation here. Then again I told you, you have to combine the earlier things which we have studied. Now if I ask you draw the load diagram for the bulkhead or for the stiffeners, it will be like this only, which we have seen earlier. And when we are doing the calculation for the load diagram, the depth of the load diagram will be the same as that of a depth of the bulkhead, and the base of the load diagram is load per unit depth at the bottom. That will be in a Newton per meter. That will be in a Newton per meter. That we are calling as a capital W. Okay. So if I ask you find out the load per unit depth at the bottom, it will be pressure at the bottom into the width of the plane which we have considered here. So the pressure at the bottom will be rho g h. H is the small h I am saying, that is from the distance from the free surface to the bottom. So in this case h is taken as a small l, that is the length of the bulkhead, or you can say the height of the bulkhead, and the width at that location at the bottom, width of the plane which we have taken here, we have taken width, the plane is a rectangle only, and the width at the bottom is a s. So that only the calculation is done here. So W is equal to rho g ls. What is W? W is a load per meter at the bottom of the stiffeners, and that we calculated from this load diagram. Okay. Now again, if I ask what is the relationship between P and W, that you can easily do here. You can see P and W. So P is equal to, what is the W? Rho g ls. So rho is here, g is here, L square is there, I will take only L here, and then S, rho g ls. So instead of rho g ls, I can write a W as it is. One left, L was left, and by 2 was left. So it will be L by 2. So P is equal to W L by 2. This equation you will get by combining P and W. In this way also you can get. At the same time, you can get this equation from here also. What I told, if you want to find out the load acting on the bulkhead with the help of a load diagram, that also you can find like this, and the pressure load at the bottom is a W. So what we have seen earlier, if you want to find out the load acting on the bulkhead with the help of a load diagram, that will be the area. Load is equal to area of a load diagram, So load diagram is, in this case it is a triangular. So what is the area of this load diagram? P is equal to, load is equal to half into base is a W into the height, that is P is equal to 1 by 2 WL. Same thing we got from here also. So there are different ways to get this relationship. Okay, I hope up to here there is no doubt. So P is equal to WL by 2. We got the relationship between the load and the load per meter at the bottom of the stiffeners. Now what we have to do? Now again try to recall our strength of material concepts. Now what we have to do, now take, you have a load diagram will be like this. Load diagram is like this. It is varying from the top to the bottom. It is varying like this. So I will call this is the top, this is the bottom. Now that we know that where is the center of pressure location. So center of pressure location in case of a load diagram, this total depth is L. The center of pressure will be, in case of a load diagram, it will be, I will call this is the total load is acting here, that is a P, and this is the load per unit depth at the bottom is a W, and the load is acting at the center of pressure location. This is the center of pressure location. From the apex of the load diagram, this will be 2L by 3, and from the bottom, the location of center of pressure will be L by 3. Okay, so if you remember that this load which is acting on the bulkhead as well as the stiffeners, it is uniformly varying load. In the strength of material, we have studied this concept that uniformly varying load. Here it is 0. As you go at the bottom, it is a varying uniformly. So this is a uniformly varying load, UVL. In short, we used to call like this. Now if I ask you, because of the presence of this P, because of the presence of this load which is acting on the stiffener, how much is the reaction is coming at the top and at the bottom? So that reaction, the reaction at the top we will call as a RT, and the reaction at the bottom we will call as a RB. So whatever the P is acting in this direction, that will be supported by this RT and RB at the both the ends, at the top and at the bottom. Now if you remember that this type of a numerical we have solved in a strength of material. The only thing is we have considered the beam as a horizontal like this. Consider this is the RT, this is the RB, and this is the uniformly varying load. And that uniformly varying load, now suppose if I ask you find out the this reaction force, and they have given the uniformly varying load is a W Newton per meter, if they are given like this. And if I ask you find out the RT and RB, so how to proceed for that? What we used to do, we will convert this uniformly varying load in a point load only for the understanding purpose, and that point load we will take as a P. Actually it is a uniformly varying load, but we are converting that uniformly varying load into the point load, and where it is going to act, it will be act, suppose if this is a L, so it will be act to the centroid of this uniformly varying load. That will be, again it is in a triangular form. So from the bottom side, from the B side, it will be L by 3, and from the top side it will be 2L by 3. So this scenario and this scenario both are same only. Then how we have done in the strength of material, how we have converted this uniformly varying load into the point load? We have taken the area of this triangle of the load, that will be 1 by 2 W into L. Same thing we have done just now. P is equal to WL by 2, and that will be acting somewhere here. That will be WL by 2. That is your P. So I will not write everywhere WL by 2. You can write P. That is more than enough. And at the end, you can replace P with a WL by 2. And this distance is L by 3, and this distance is 2L by 3. This you can say T, you can say B. This is RT and this is RB. Now if I ask you find out the RT and RB, then how to proceed for that? Again, there are two unknowns. We need two equations. We have to generate the two equations, and by using that two equation you can calculate both the unknown. Okay, so how to proceed for that? So first equation you will get from a summation of Fy is equal to 0. I am talking about this because this is the same and this both are same only I have made it horizontal, and this and this both are same. So summation of Fy means I am talking about this axis is a y axis and this axis is a x axis. The summation of the forces along the y axis is equal to 0. So take this upper force is equal to lower force. Okay, your downward force, you can say upward force. You can write like this. Upward force is equal to downward force. Upward force is RT plus RB is equal to P. RT plus RB is equal to P. This is our first equation. Then second equation, how do you do? You have to take the moment about any of the point. So I am taking the moment about the T. So take moment about a point T. How to do that? Again, I will suggest there should not be any misunderstanding, or it is very difficult to remember signs. So that's why I will suggest anti-clockwise movement is equal to clockwise movement. If you do like this, there is no problem with the sign conventions. Anti-clockwise movement is equal to clockwise movement. So if you take the movement about T, so there are two forces here, force number 1 and the force number 2. So because of the RB, if you take the movement because of the RB about T, it will be force which is acting in upward direction, RB into the perpendicular distance is L. Means from B to T the distance is L. So and that because of the RB the movement is generating in the anti-clockwise direction. So I will write toward at this location RB into L. Now coming to the load P, which is acting at this location 2L by 3 far away from the T. So because of the P, the movement will be, because of the P, movement will be clockwise direction about a T. If you take the movement about a T, so that will be P into 2L by 3. PL to L by 2L by 3. Now RT is passing through the T only, so it is not going to generate any movement. So only there are two forces P and RB. They are going to generate some movement, and that we have taken here. Now if I ask find out the RB here, so this L get cancelled, then RB is equal to 2P by 3. RB is equal to 2P by 3. Take this RB and substitute in the equation number 1. So you will get the RT. RT is equal to P minus RB, that will be 2P by 3. Again you will get the here, take the LCM, 3P minus 2P, it will be P. So RT is coming P by 3. RT is coming a P by 3 and RB is coming 2P by 3. It is obvious that from the diagram itself you will come to know that this load diagram, the maximum load is coming on at the bottom only. So if the maximum load is at the bottom, so bottom reaction force will be always maximum only. So whatever the load is coming from this side, the RB has to support more load than the RT, because at the top there is less load. Okay, so RB is a 2P by 3 and RT is a P by 3. Okay, so we'll do the now shear force calculation. So the shear force calculation. So how to proceed for the shear force calculation? As we have done, what we have done now, so you have this is the top and this is the bottom. The reaction at the top is RT, that we got P by 3, and RB we got 2P by 3. In the last slide we have discussed this like this. Now how to proceed for the shear force calculation? I will take one random location, or you can say section, at any location in between the T and B at the distance x from the top. So I will do the shear force calculation at this location. So now when you are doing this calculation, keep in your mind on the left side, the triangle is now this much only. The triangle is this much. We don't know at this location, at the location x, what is this height. What is this height? We know at the bottom how much is the height, that is a W. So what we will do, with the help of a linear interpolation method or linear method, add for the length L, the base is a W. Then for the length x, how much will be this base? I am talking about this. So that I will call as a Y now. So how to do that? You do the calculation like this, cross multiplication. YL is equal to WX. So Y will be WX by L. WX by L. So this value, now you got this height is WX by L. WX by L. This value is a WX by L. Now we know that if you consider only this blue color triangle, which is on the left side of the section, where will be the resultant load? Means now it is a UVL, uniformly varying load. We need to convert the uniformly varying load into the point load. So how to convert that? So and that point load I will call now with some another just a minute. I will call this with some another name. So you can say that is you can say R. So that R we have to calculate, and where it is up to this will be R is acting at the central location of this triangle, which is a blue color triangle. So location will be from the apex of the triangle, it is at 2x by 3, and from the base it is at x by 3. So how to calculate the R? R is the load converted. R is a, you can say it is a point load converted from the uniformly varying load. So how to convert? That will be the area of the triangle, 1 by 2 y into x. So 1 by 2 y, just now we have calculated, that is wx by l into x. So it will be wx square by 2l, that is your r, the load acting at this location only for the small triangle. So you keep in your mind this thing, r is equal to wx square by 2l. Now so this is your xx, this is your rt, that is your p by 3, this is rb, that is a 2p by 3, and there was a load. I will draw that load in another color, wx square by 2l. Okay, wx square by 2l, that will be at the location of 2x by 3 from the top, and from the section it is x by 3. Now do the shear force calculation. Shear force at xx, shear force at xx. Now we need to use some sign conventions. The sign convention I am taking like this. Sign conventions for the shear force calculation. Upward force is positive and downward force is negative. If you are coming from left to right, I am coming from left to right. So upward force is positive, downward force is negative. So now shear force at xx. So at x, you think that you are standing at xx and you are looking towards the left side. What are the forces are there? So there are two forces. One is a RT and another is a R. That is wx square by 2l. Okay. So RT is in upward direction, so that will be a positive p by 3. And R is in downward direction, that will be negative wx square by 2l. Wx square by 2l. Okay, now if you see this equation, in this equation you will find that x is having the square. It is not raised to power 1, or it is not raised to power 3, it is a raised to power 2. It means that if when you are going to draw the shear force curve, that will be always a parabola. So shear force curve always in parabolic nature. When you have a UVL load, uniformly varying load, shear force will be this one. Now this is a general formula. Now if I ask find out the shear force at T at this location. So at this location value of x will be 0. Shear force at T, value of x will be 0. So in this equation substitute x is equal to 0. If you substitute x is equal to 0, so this term becomes 0. The final answer will be there. Shear force at T will be p by 3. Shear force at T is a p by 3. Now if I ask find out the shear force at the bottom, so at the bottom x will be, at this bottom x will be L, the total length or the total depth of the bulkhead, x is equal to L. If you substitute here, you will get the value F shear force at bottom is equal to p by 3 minus w, this x you can substitute L square divided by 2L. So p by 3, this L get cancelled. The only thing is WL by 2 is left. If you remember, we have done we got the relationship between the load P and the W, that will be WL by 2. So wherever WL by 2 is there, you can write P. So you can substitute here, take the LCM. So it will be P minus 3P. It will be minus 2P by 3. Means shear force at bottom is minus 2P by 3. So you got the shear force at the top, you got the shear force at the bottom. What about in between that? How it is going to vary? There will be some shear force, but how it is going to vary? We got the relation, we got this answer from this equation. Shear force curve will be there, that will be in a parabolic in nature. So all of you please remember this for two terms. So if I draw shear force diagram, it will be just the shear force diagram, it will be like this. So I am taking the projections of the same thing. So how to proceed for that? Shear force at top we got P by 3, that is a plus. Shear force at the bottom we got minus 2P by 3. So above this line we will take as a positive, below this line we will take a negative. So at the top shear force is a P by 3. So I will take, this is the P by 3. So this height is a P by 3. And at the bottom it is a minus 2P by 3. And I am going to join these two ends. I am going to join these two ends. Don't join this both the ends. I am talking about end number 1 and end number 2 with the help of a straight line. Don't draw with the straight line. It will be in a parabolic in nature, and that we have seen from here, x is having the power 2. So it will be like this. It will be like this. It means that you will have a positive shear, you have a negative shear. But there is some point where the shear force becomes a 0. So we need to find out this location where this shear force is crossing from positive to negative. At this location shear force is a 0. I want to find out this location where the shear force becomes 0. So for that purpose what I will do now, I have a generalized formula for the shear force, where so that formula I will make as a 0. I will make it 0. So P by 3 minus Wx square by 2L is equal to 0. So find out the value of x over here, Wx square by 2L. So x square, again we got the value, P, where we got the relationship between the P and just a minute. So from here you will get the value of x will be, x is equal to, you take this side, P into 2L divided by P into 2L divided by 3W. You can take in under root like this. So you got the value of x where the shear force is 0. We will see is there any way to solve this again in more detail. So I will write here. So x is equal to, we know the relationship between P and W. P is equal to WL by 2. This already we have done. So you can substitute that value here. P is a WL by 2 into 2L divided by 3W. So this 2 get cancelled, this W get cancelled. What are the things is left? L square by 3, that is your X. Now square root of L square will be L and it will be. So what is the meaning of this? This value X is L by root 3. So at X is equal to L by root 3, the shear force becomes a 0. Please note down this value, it is very important. X is equal to L by root 3. At this point, the shear force becomes a 0. Okay, so like this we have done the shear force calculations, and all of you please remember this, all the values, how much is the shear force at the top, how much is the shear force at the bottom, the location of a 0 shear force, that will be X is equal to L by root 3. This thing you have to keep in your mind, because this all the values is required for solving the numericals. Okay, now we will move for the bending moment calculations. So how to proceed for that? So as we have done the shear force diagram and we got the generalized shear force formula, same thing we have to do for the bending moment, generalized bending moment formula. So how to proceed for that? For that also we need to take some sign conventions. Bending moment calculations. The sign conventions will be, I am coming from left to right. If it is a clockwise movement, we will take as a positive, and anti-clockwise movement we will take as a negative. Okay, so please note down this, anti-clockwise movement, negative. You can take whatever the movement you want, sign convention, but I am taking this one and I am calculating the bending moment at xx. So you have to see only the forces on the left side. So there are two forces, P by 3 and Wx square by 2L. So now we will see bending moment because of the RT, that is P by 3. P by 3 into from RT, from T to the section X, section XX. How much is the distance, horizontal distance? That is X. So P by 3 into X. Because of this, the moment which is generating, that will be this force into this distance. The moment about this XX will be in a clockwise direction. So I will take the positive sign here. P by 3 into X. Now Wx square by 2L, there is one force that will be acting here. From Wx square by 2L and the section XX, distance is a X by 3. Distance is a X by 3. But because of this force, the moment is generating, that will be in a opposite direction, that will be in a anti-clockwise direction, so that will be negative, minus Wx square by 2L into the perpendicular distance is a X by 3. Now here this is a very important thing that you have to understand. It will be Wx square x cube by 6L. Now you can see the bending moment equation is having x cube term. So it means that when you are going to draw the bending moment curve, always you have to keep in your mind that curve is not a parabola, it will be a hyperbola, or you can say having the power of the variable is a cube. Okay, so that you have to keep in your mind. Okay, so it won't be a parabola. The nature of that curve will be raised to power 3. So how to proceed for that? I will draw the bending moment diagram over here only. This is a T and B. Now what we got, that I want to find out the bending moment at T and bending moment at B. Always keep in your mind, at the extreme end of any beam, the bending moment will be always 0. So if you want to calculate the bending moment at T, substitute x is equal to 0. Find out the bending moment at B, substitute x is equal to L in this above equation. You will get the bending moment will be 0 only at both the end. You can do the calculation yourself, you will get that values. So bending moment at T and bending moment at B is 0. But there will be a curve here in between the T and B, and the nature of that curve is raised to power 3. But how the curve will be there? And one more thing which we know, that wherever the shear force is 0, wherever the shear force is 0 there, bending moment will be always maximum. So where the shear force will be 0, at x is equal to L, x is equal to L by root 3. At x is equal to L by root 3, the shear force is 0. So what we will do now, we will calculate the bending moment at x is equal to L by root 3. How to calculate? Substitute L by 3 in this equation. So it will be P by 3, x will be L by root 3 minus W, this will be L, sorry, this is L, this will be W upon 6L, and x is here, now L upon root 3, like this value will be there, and cube of this. So if you solve this, it will come PL upon 3 root 3 minus WL cube upon 6L root 3 raised to power 3. It will be 3 root 3 root 3 power raised to power 3 will be there. So it will be 3 root 3. It will be 3 root 3. You can write like this directly. So root 3 raised to power 3 will be 3 root 3. So you can write like this here, 3 root 3. Okay. So this L get cancelled. Now you can put a P. You can put this. You can convert this. We again try to recall this. P is equal to WL by 2. So we convert whole thing in a P. So you have here so that I am writing here once again, PL by 3 root 3. Now this term I am making in a P. So WL into L, because here left is a L square only. Then 6 becomes, I am writing like this, 2 into 3 into 3 root 3. So this WL by 2 you can write as a P. So PL upon 3 root 3 minus PL upon 6 root 3. So this will become, take a LCM of this. So this will be 2PL minus PL divided by 6 root 3. Then answer becomes PL upon 6 root 3. If you solve this, this value will be always a maximum. So if you solve the curve, so I will write these values here, but this board is not sufficient and I can't move to the another board. So if you draw the bending moment diagram, it will come like this. So this is a T, B, bending moment at T, bending moment at B is 0 only, and wherever the shear force was maximum, the location was L by root 3. So at this location, bending moment is a plus PL by 6 root 3. So you can draw the curve like this, having the degree of this curve is 3. So you will get the bending moment curve like this, and this will be a this value is a PL 6 root 3. PL 6 root 3. So like this you can draw the bending moment curve. Okay, so just to recall the thing which we have done just now. What are the things that are required to us when we are going to solve the numerical? Shear force at shear force at the top. Shear force at the top is a P by 3. Shear force at the bottom is a minus 2P by 3. Location of a zero shear is L by root 3. Bending moment at T is 0. Bending moment at B is 0, and this term now, and maximum bending moment is PL upon 6 root 3. So this value of a P and all the things will be given to you. You have to use these formulas, and you have to find out the shear force, bending moment, location of the zero shear, maximum bending moment, all the things. I hope everything is clear. In the next lecture, we are going to solve the numerical on the basis of this discussion. Thank you very much.